Hi, this is Mike from Mike's Unboxing Reviews and How To, and today is going to be a very emotional video, one way or the other, because I'm going from Android back to Apple. Keep watching to find out why. Hi, so welcome back. This is going to be one of those videos which people are going to either love or hate, or probably equal amounts of both. But I've come to the realization that unfortunately I have to return to iOS. Now, I've been using Android now for probably the best part of 4 or 5 years on and off. It's pretty much been my daily driver all the time. Now, I have used iPhones. My last iPhone that I actually owned myself was the iPhone 5S, which is getting on a little bit now, but it's still an iOS phone. Essentially, as long as it's an iPhone, they all work pretty much in the same way. Now, that is something I wish I could say for Android devices. Now, there are some Android devices out there, such as the ones that are using the Android One operating system, where they're all basically as Google intended. But unfortunately, there's quite a lot that manufacturers have kind of gone off on their own little tangent and put in their own kind of little twists or their themes on Android. Now, one such device has been my daily driver at the moment, my Huawei P10 Lite, which I'm currently using to remotely control the camera. And now this has actually been a fantastic phone, and I've had it now for probably about a year or so. I've never actually done a proper unboxing on it because it's pretty much been my daily my daily driver, and it's been in use pretty much all the time. So I've never wanted to kind of wipe it and start again from scratch to go through the whole setup process and all that kind of thing. It has pretty much been my go-to device. In the meantime, I've had things like the Nokia 6, I think I've had, 6.1. I've had the Huawei P20 briefly. I've had a P8 Lite. There's been all sorts of Android phones of different sizes, shapes, and prices for that matter. But it's come to the point now where I'm testing a lot of things for the YouTube channel, and one of the things which has actually really sort of spurred me for this change is this little thing, the Fitbit Charge 3. Now, this has just come out early October, and I started doing an unboxing video and a setup video on it with the P10 Lite, and it was nothing but problems. I failed to get it to recognise the device on 2 attempts. I've done a couple of resets on the device and it just wouldn't see it. Eventually it did actually find it after a couple of resets on both the tracker and the phone, and eventually got it to set up, but it wasn't a smooth experience, not what I was expecting to happen. So I went back and tested it with other phones, such as the Moto G4 and another Android device, just to see where the problem lies. And as it normally is for Android devices, they can be picky about what they will and won't connect to and how they work and how they don't. And because there's so many different versions of Android or flavors of Android, it is difficult for manufacturers to kind of have that kind of massive scope to make sure that your device will work with their device, which is pretty understandable, very much the same way as Windows works, whereas there's thousands and hundreds of millions of different versions of computers out there, PC compatibles, etc. And more times than not, they all do work fine, but sometimes there's certain combinations of hardware and software that just will not work, which again is understandable because there's so many different versions, they can't cater for everything. Now, this is one of the reasons why I've come back to Apple and iOS, because essentially it is a extremely locked down operating system, and give or take, it pretty much is exactly the same on all the phones that the current version supports. So from basically the kind of 5S upwards to the latest X models. So that is basically the reason why I've had to switch, or I feel that I've had to switch. Now, another reason why I've switched is because these devices now, you can get actually really good deals. So if I was going to spend in the region of £250 to £300 on a device, at the moment there's quite a few choices, especially in the Android market. You've got things like the Honor 8X, which is coming out. There's the Nokia 7.1. And there's various other models which I could list. But for around about the same price, £300, you can get an iPhone 7 Plus. A used one, granted, but in pretty good condition and with a warranty. Now, I picked up this one from a company called Envirophone in the UK. Now, it comes with a 12-month warranty, got a 30-day kind of money-back guarantee, and after the 30 days they will swap like for like if you get any problems or faults, which to me seems perfectly acceptable. Now, There are some downsides, obviously, of having a used device. There will be signs of use. Now, this particular device actually does have some marks on the back, which you may or may not be able to pick up on the camera. But with a protective case on and a screen protector, you're never going to be any of the wiser. And then I also get the benefits of all the quality features of the iPhone 7 Plus, such as the dual camera, which I've taken some photos out in the garden, and actually using the camera and the video camera on this thing, after not using it for such a long time, is actually quite a refreshing thing to do. Basically, once it's set up in the menus, you just point and shoot and the camera does everything else for you. I'm not saying that Android devices don't do that to some extent, but again, because there's so many different versions of the Android camera app, unless you download a specific app on every phone that you use to make it all the same, you kind of end up having to hunt around in menus and what have you, which yeah, is very simple to do, but realistically, do you want to be bothered with that? Literally, you want to take your phone out of your pocket or out of the cradle or wherever it is, and you just want to point it and shoot. That is the whole point of having a camera on a smartphone, I guess. So going back to other features such as reliability, obviously Apple phones are pretty well known for reliability. I've done quite a few videos with no sounding calls on both Apple phones and Android phones, and I would say the amount of people that have had problems with Android phones with no sounding calls or microphone issues or headset issues or earphone or earpiece issues have massively outweighed the amount of people that have had problems with iPhone devices. Although, having said that, with the latest iOS 12 update, there have been far more problems with audio devices than I've ever seen before. Whether that's going to be something that Apple will iron out with the upcoming 12.1, 12.2, etc., we're yet to see. Hopefully that will be the case and it's just a temporary thing. But generally, on the whole, hardware problems tend to be a lot more evident with Android devices. Whether that's because the price point they're at, or the ones I've bought, the price point they're at, yeah, there probably is that to it. But it does seem that there are a lot of problems with Android devices and no sounding calls, which has been great for me for a YouTuber because it's given me things to make, video content, but not so great for obviously end users and also people that I'm recommending to buy these devices should they go wrong in the future. More in the case of reliability. Now, the iOS has now evolved and has gone on in incremental steps and is essentially pretty much the same as it was when it very first came out. Android operating system has changed relatively quickly as well, and there are a lot of new features, and between the two operating systems there isn't actually a great deal between them, apart from obviously, like I said, when manufacturers put their own little twists and tweaks on it just to give it their own kind of a sense of identity, which I personally don't think is a good idea. I prefer it to be stock bone, completely simple as it should be, so that way everybody knows how to use the phone immediately when they pick it up, such as with the Nokia devices at the moment. Okay, so basically that is my long way round of explaining to you why I've jumped ship and gone from Android devices, which I still do love and I will still have Android devices, but I have felt the need to own an iOS device, a relatively modern one, for testing and reliability purposes. You don't know how infuriating it can be when you've pressed the record on a camera and you're trying to set something up, such as the Fitbit device, and something goes wrong and then you end up going through all these fault finding steps. It just delays the whole process. With an iPhone, as much as I hate to say it, it just works. So that has been the reasoning behind why I've moved back to Apple and iOS. Let me know in the comments your thoughts. I imagine there's going to be some very strong thoughts either way, and there's possibly going to be some of you that actually don't care less, just as long as they can make a telephone call, they're completely happy. So let me know in the comments what you're thinking. Give me a like if you like this video, give me a dislike if you dislike this video. In the meantime, I've been Mike, this is Mike's Unboxing Reviews and How To, and I'm back on the Apple bandwagon. Thanks for watching.